Hi, welcome to Creative Soul Life and Episode 7, Creative Play. I actually recorded this episode this past Tuesday, and I was editing it, and everything was just off. I left off stuff I had in my notes. I didn't feel like I was engaged, and then I woke up Wednesday morning feeling like I had a cold. So I knew things were off, made a batch of elderberry syrup, drank some tea, rested, and now I'm feeling better. So I'm going to talk again about creative play. So what is creative play? When you think of play, you think of children. PBS says one of the most important types of creative activity for young children is creative play. Nothing reinforces the creative spirit and nourishes a child's soul more than providing large blocks of time to engage in spontaneous, self-directed play throughout the day. Why would we stop nourishing our soul as adults through creativity and creative play? I would think even just the breaking routine would provide a lot of benefits. Psych Central agrees. They say playing is just as important for adults as it is for children. Among its many benefits, adult play can boost your creativity, sharpen your sense of humor, and help you cope better with stress. These are all the things that I keep talking about here on Creative Soul Life. So let's talk about how to get some more creative play into your life. So what is play? When you think of children doing it, you think of them running around, lots of imagination. There's whole stories and scenes going on in their heads. Or if they're at a table and building, they're not just building with blocks. They're building cities and colonies on the moon and things. It's exploring with your imagination. Or basically, even simpler, it's doing an activity for which there's no purpose for. You're not trying to create something to sell, create something to use or monetize. You might be able to do these things, but that's not your intent when you set out. When you set out, it's just to play, to explore. So how can you get more of this creative play in your life? Well, first, recognize it as play. Give yourself permission to do something that's just for fun because you want to play, that you want to do it without any kind of value or purpose. It's even okay to go into it with the intention that it might just get thrown away. Remember one time when my oldest daughter was living with us. Her husband was deployed overseas and she had just had my grandson. So she moved in with us for a little while and we got to enjoy their company. And she took up crocheting while she was with us. And she was making these wonderful little beanies and different things. And sometimes what she made, worked. And sometimes she'd have to kind of rip it out and start over. But she was enjoying the creativity of it. And then the next thing you know, she was trying to figure out how to sell it and I'm like, why? This is just for you. It's okay to just play with it and experiment with it. It's for some reason, it feels like as adults, we have to have purpose behind everything. But sometimes you can just give yourself permission just to do it for the fun of it. One of the things I like to do for creative play is tie-dye. If you're watching on YouTube, you see I'm wearing a tie-dye shirt right now. This one turned out pretty good. Obviously, there is a use to it. I can wear it. But a lot of my experiments and what-ifs are just blobs of color on a shirt. They make great PJs because they're not things that I really wear out in public. But again, it's some creative play for me. I start playing with the colors and seeing what I could do. And it's a way to make some of the creative play with a little bit of purpose. I'll get to wear it at the end. But I have zero desire to sell it, monetize it, or anything like that. So also another way to get more creative play is think about your learning style. Everyone usually falls into either a visual learner, which you'd like to read, look at directions, see things, an auditory learner, which you like to be told, you like to listen to lectures, you learn through podcasts, things like that, or a kinetic learner where you're doing. It doesn't make sense until you're hands-on doing it yourself, you're applying the knowledge, you're physically doing something. Most people are a combination of the three. but you usually have a strength that stands out. Like, for example, I am very heavily a visual learner. I am definitely not an auditory learner. I do listen to podcasts and stuff, but they're usually more relaxing. I'm not trying to really learn something. In fact, if I listen to one and I find that I am trying to learn and retain it, I'll usually go back and read the transcript of it. I'm that much of a visual learner. So a lot of times my creative play involves obviously visual activity, usually artistic activity, that type of thing. But I find it's more playful and fun to match to my style. If you're a kinetic learner, you like to move, get out and do something very physical and active. Take a walk in nature, take a dance class, do something that engages that learning style, and you'll find that you kind of lean into it more. It'll spark that creative play and enjoyment. I am a little bit of a kinetic learner as well. I've always wanted to be a dancer. Maybe another life I'll get that chance. But I took belly dancing classes for a couple of years, and there was no purpose to it. I mean, I had no aspirations to go be some great dancer somewhere, get paid for it, anything. I loved the costumes. I had bought a costume when I went to a Renaissance fair, and I think that's kind of what sparked it, is I loved watching the belly dancers there. Got the costume, and I was like, okay, now what? And so I found some place to take some lessons, and I did it for about 2 years. Had an absolute blast. It was a duet lesson. I took it with another girl, and our instructor did them in her home. She had been a belly dancer and dancer for years. It was so much fun. And I did a few, I guess the equivalent of piano recitals, but for dancing, we danced, I think, at a retirement home. And then there was kind of a belly dancing festival that we did a dance at. But even if I hadn't done any sort of public thing with it, it was just for me. I loved the movement, the rhythm. I loved the sparkliness of the costumes and the hip sashes and everything. I just did it because it was fun. Maybe that's a little extreme because it did cost money for the lessons and the costumes, but it was so creatively engaging and so nourishing for me to do those lessons that if you have the opportunity or a dream to do something like that and you get the opportunity, absolutely go for it. Even if there's no purpose to it whatsoever, you'll feel it here and it will be worth it. So maybe you can't take a class. Maybe this sounds interesting. You want some play, but the funds or the time or your location, all these things may make it difficult to get out and engage creative play outside your own world. You can do micro versions of play. For example, you'd love to take a clay class. It's just not in the works right now. Buy some Play-Doh. Buy some self-drying clay and just play with it. You don't have to know what you're doing. Just get your hands dirty, feel it, get in there and play. I love writing poetry. I don't think anybody's read any of my poetry other than one poem that got put in my 6th grade yearbook, but I still love doing it. And I don't really set blocks of time to sit down and write it, or I've never taken a class or anything like that. But I did one time get some of those little word magnets that go on the fridge that had little silly sayings and stuff. And I played with it and made little poems, and they would change throughout the week. And then my kids would get engaged and play with it. So as much as I would love to sit down and be a poet or take a class, this micro version worked for me. So if you can't engage in creative play on the level that you would like, figure out if there's a micro version that you can do. Another way to bring creative play into your life is to create your own toy box or play box. Remember, if you have kids, your kids had toy boxes and had all kinds of stuff in there, and they pull things out and it sparked their imagination and go on a different imaginative journey. You can do the same with your own creative box or toy box. All you need is anything, a Tupperware container, cigar box, whatever. And as you see things that just make you look twice or spark your interest, a stone, a feather, a picture in a magazine, some words from a magazine, you see a quote online or something, write it down in a little notebook and then tear it out and put it in the box. Accumulate these things in your toy box, and then pick a day and go through it and then see what it sparks. See if it sparks making a collage, writing a poem, making a song. Because the pieces of your toy box are just little bits that have sparked some sort of interest in you. It will help engage that creative play, that not for a purpose type activity, and maybe help get you started in some sort of creative play. One of my oldest friends since high school is an artist like me. And one year for my birthday, she sent me a collage box. Now, I've dabbled a little in collages, and lately I've been doing more mixed media. But at the time, I was just doing a few things. And the box was full of all kinds of neat things. It had pieces from games. It had pieces from a letterpress, like stamps and stuff. It had trinkets in it, pieces of jewelry. And I loved it. And it had sewing bits. It was just this box of random things that I have culled through over the years. I've used it in different artwork. Sometimes I just like opening it up and looking through it. And it may not get included in a piece of art, but just playing with the things and seeing all the disconnected pieces and maybe arranging them, it really gets creative juices flowing. So make yourself a toy box. The other way to do creative play is to do something totally different from your normal activities or creative activities or the way you relax or engage yourself. For example, if you're a reader and you normally read fiction, or maybe you normally read nonfiction, read something completely different. Read a teen graphic novel, or read a romance novel or a mystery, or read something that's nonfiction on some sort of subject you've had an interest in. Read something totally different. You might hate it. It might be hilarious. You may love it. You never know. If a lot of these ideas sound interesting and you're like, I just don't know when I could do this, then you absolutely need to schedule it. You need to carve out some time on your calendar. And if you share your calendar, give it a code word, call it, mental health hour or whatever. Call it CP for creative play. Whatever you need to do, fit it into your schedule. Put it in there. Make a date with yourself to do some creative play. I do this probably about once a month when I have my scheduled studio time. I will carve out some time to just do some play. And a lot of times I do this. I love different materials and experimenting with them and things. And they may never show up in any of my like formal artwork I have for sale. But it helps me kind of cleanse my creative palette. Like right now I'm using alcohol inks. I have no clue if I'll be able to do anything with these in the future, professionally or not. But at least once a month, I carve out an hour or two. I set them up and I just play with the colors. I play with the ink. I'll Google a YouTube video and look at how other people are doing it and then play and see if I can replicate that. None of this has shown up in any of my shops or anything. It's just fun. It's just my creative play that I need to do to, again, it's a cleansing of my creative palette. And I especially do it after I've been working on pieces very intensely to like go on a show or commissions or things like that have been very focused. To me, it's a way to step back, take a breather, and again, kind of reset everything. I need it to be better at what I do professionally. So I really encourage you to give it a try. You may find that is that kind of resetting that you need on a periodic basis. So if all these ideas just absolutely sound out of reach, maybe this is the season in your life that it is chaotic, it is crazy, you're over busy, and you're like, there's just no way. I can't even get it on my schedule. Then at the very least, do some creative play in your mind. Do some creative daydreams. You can do this literally anywhere. When you're using the restroom, maybe not driving if you need to pay attention. At any time when you can just take a few minutes and let your brain do the creative play for you. Spin up a fantasy, much like children will role play and they're heroes and they're soldiers and police officers and artists and everything else. Do that in your brain. And your brain, paint that painting in Paris at the Sidewalk Cafe. Be the opening act for the Grand Ole Opry. Fly a fighter jet. Whatever is your fantasy, take the time to sit and think about it. And just give yourself a few minutes. Take a break from reality and give your brain some creative playtime. So to recap, to get some creative play into your life, first, recognize it as play. There doesn't need to be a purpose behind it. Think about your learning style. Match that to some sort of activity. Do micro versions. If you can't get out and take a class or go somewhere, get a smaller version. Do it on a mini level. Make your own play box or toy box. Do something completely different to your normal activity. Schedule it. I'll know how busy we get. Put it on your schedule. And if you absolutely cannot do that, then take some time to daydream and fantasize and do the creative play in your head. Now, go be creative and feed your soul. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and hit the subscribe button and check out my other episodes of Creative Soul Life.